Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. Hyena teeth. A pair of fossilized teeth were discovered in Canada's Yukon Territory in the Old Crow Basin back in the 1970s. The teeth were pulled from an area once entirely covered by ice, along with 50,000 other mammal fossils that have been collected over the past century. Because the basin was frozen for so long, all these fossils remained amazingly preserved. And although the actual bodies of the hyenas weren't found, their teeth have been enough for scientists to learn what they were doing in North America. Even though the teeth were found in the 1970s, it wasn't until quite recently that researchers from the University of Buffalo identified them. The teeth had been kept in the Canadian Museum of Nature, collecting dust in a back room. But thanks to scientists taking a renewed interest in them, the teeth have now been analyzed. Researchers identified the teeth as belonging to the Chasmaporthetes genus, more formally known as running hyenas. They differ from modern hyenas because they had extremely long legs that made them much quicker than their relatives in Africa. Another interesting point is that researchers have never found evidence of hyenas in the Arctic region of Canada before. Their fossils have only been found in Africa, Eurasia, and the southern parts of North America. We now know that during the Ice Age, when sea levels were much lower than today, gangs of hyenas roamed all the way from their ancestral home in Asia to the northernmost territories in North America. They took the same route that humans did 15,000 years ago, only about 1.4 million years before we made the trek. Number 9. The Antarctic Ghost Base. Deep in the icy darkness of Antarctica, there is an abandoned ghost base still running vital scientific experiments without any humans there. The remote science station had to evacuate during the polar winter because a chasm in the ice shelf was opening underneath it. The entire base was under threat of literally falling into a giant void beneath the ice. It's called the Halley Scientific Research Station, and it's been operating on the Brunt ice shelf ever since 1956. But believe it or not, these ice chasms are such a problem that it's been relocated and rebuilt several times. It was here at the 4th station in 1985 where scientists detected the hole in the ozone. In 2017, the mobile buildings had to close at their newest location, just 12 miles from the old location because of the growing hole beneath them. Ever since, scientists have figured out how to occupy the base for only part of the year, while allowing their experiments to run through the winter without them there. These days, generators supply enough electricity to the station to allow scientists in the UK to monitor everything from a distance. The result is a frozen ghost station, devoid of human life, running its own scientific experiments. Number 8. Black worms. Every year on Mount Rainier, billions of black ice worms appear from the ice and start crawling around. Scientists know almost nothing about the worms, nor why they wriggle out of the ice every year. Most of the time, the glacial slopes of Mount Rainier are lifeless. There's ice and snow and little else. It's only in the summer, as the snow starts to melt, that billions of worms, as small as scraps of thread, come to the surface. And even though it happens annually, scientists still haven't figured out why. But scientists do know a few things. They know this is the only species of worm that spends its entire life living in ice. They know that as the glaciers on the mountain begin to shrink, the worms are at risk of going extinct. They also know that despite living in the ice for months at a time, they can't actually tolerate freezing temperatures. Their entire existence is on the edge of tolerance. They remain perfectly fine while buried in the ice, like living in a warm igloo, but freezing winds in the warmer months can kill them. Scientists don't know how they survive the winter, but they believe they eat bacteria and algae in the summer as they squirm along the surface of the ice. Other than that, the worms remain a total mystery. Number 7. Ice Age Beaver. At the bottom of a frozen gravel pit in southeastern Manitoba, an anonymous man came across the bone of a monster, the likes of which you wouldn't believe. The creature lived across North America during the Ice Age, but went extinct a few thousand years ago. It was larger than a black bear, vicious enough to easily kill a person, and yet it was just a beaver. But it was a gigantic beaver. The bone at the bottom of the pit belonged to a prehistoric relative of the modern beaver, but the founder thought it was a pig bone. They brought it to the local museum during their lunch hour because they noticed it had a tooth like a tusk and thought it might be ancient. The man who found the bone had never even heard of giant beavers before, and to be honest, most people haven't. So far, this is only the fourth piece of evidence that these giant monsters lived in Canada. When compared to a modern beaver, it was truly huge. A modern beaver could easily bite a person's hand off with their huge teeth, which they use to bite through wood. But this ancient relative could easily cause significantly more damage with one bite. It weighed about 300 pounds and could grow to at least 6 feet in length. These days, beavers only weigh around 20 pounds and don't grow bigger than a medium-sized dog. The ancient species went extinct at the end of the last ice age around 10,000 years ago. What do you think about this enormous beaver? Let me know in the comments below. Number 6. Solar storm trapped in the ice. A research team from the Lund University in Sweden analyzed ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica and found evidence of a bizarre cosmic phenomenon. They found that a solar storm, one of extreme magnitude, took place 9,200 years ago. It's confusing scientists because the storm happened during a quiet phase in the sun's life, in which they believed such events didn't occur. Up until now, scientists thought solar storms only happen during sunspot cycles, when the star becomes extremely active. But judging by what the researchers found in the ice, that's clearly not the case. They found in the ice cores traces of radioactive isotopes that are only produced when high-energy cosmic particles reach the planet's surface. Here's what's really scary about the discovery. The solar storm released so much radioactivity that if it had happened today, it could have wiped out power across the globe. Every city on Earth would have been plunged into darkness, and satellites would have fallen from the sky from radioactive damage. Air traffic would have been in serious trouble, and astronauts would have had their communication systems fail. Basically, a solar storm of this magnitude would have caused pandemonium on Earth. We may have missed the last one, but another could come at literally any second. 5 minutes, 5 days, or 500,000 years from now. Number 5. Patterns in the ice. The phenomenon of ice needles is pretty fascinating. They form during an imbalance between the temperature of soil and the temperature of the air. When the temperature drops at night, some types of dirt will contract, while water in the soil is drawn upward. The result is billions of tiny frozen needles sticking out of the ground. It's shocking to see, and is surprisingly helping scientists learn more about the planet Mars. If you've ever gotten up early in the morning and walked across a field and heard crunching underfoot from the frosty grass, you were probably walking over ice needles. It happens all the time. But in some more extreme places in the world, the recurring pattern of ice needles create delicate designs like geoglyphs. As the needles freeze, they push very small rocks onto one side or the other. Over a very long time, these rocks become clustered in geological formations that look as though they were made by human hands. Looking at one of these clusters from above, you would think it was an ancient civilization trying to draw a picture using tiny rocks. What scientists find amazing and confusing is that the same patterns made by ice needles on Earth have been seen on Mars. The obvious takeaway is that Mars definitely once had oceans, and that there is still moisture in the soil. When it gets colder at night, that moisture is sucked out into the form of very small ice needles. These needles, over thousands of years, have created complex patterns all across the surface. Number 4. Mount Everest's ice problem. There have been plenty of amazing things discovered on Everest frozen in ice, from the bodies of hikers to leftover equipment from ancient expeditions. But there probably won't be very many more. According to National Geographic, a new study has found that the South Col Glacier of Mount Everest has lost half its ice mass since the 1990s. The highest glacier on the tallest mountain on the planet has lost 2,000 years of ice in only 3 decades. What that means is that all the ice that accumulated over 2,000 years has melted in just 30 years. To put this as simply as possible, there won't be ice on Everest for very much longer. These findings weren't easy to come by. National Geographic and Rolex Perpetual Planet Everest expedition brought together over 34 international scientists and teams of Sherpas to take ice core samples and biological samples all over the mountain. They created a very detailed map of Everest's glacial history. They were able to look at the amount of ice on the mountain, where the ice was, over the past 2,000 years. They found the oldest layer of ice on the very top of their core samples to be 2,000 years old. That means that everything that had been laid down after is already gone. There is no word on how much longer Everest will remain icy, but when looking at the numbers, we can estimate about 20 more years before the whole mountain is dry. Number 3. The Scimitar Cat. A decade ago in Canada's frozen Klondike region, a mysterious bone was found in the permafrost at a Dominion Creek mining camp. It was 2011 when the bone was found, yet scientists are still making discoveries because of it. Researchers are unsure exactly how old the bone is, with experts guessing about 50,000 years. It belonged to a predatory animal that lived alongside the woolly mammoth, the woolly rhino, and extinct North American horses. This animal was the scimitar cat, a ferocious feline you've probably never heard of. It was a type of saber-toothed cat, but without the great big front teeth. It was unique in that it had great eyesight and increased endurance compared to a lot of other big cats. Unlike big felines today, like cheetahs and lions, who can only use one burst of amazing speed to catch their prey, the scimitar cat could run pretty much forever. It evolved with the ability to chase its prey until its prey collapsed. This thing would chase a horse until the horse fell down from exhaustion. Sadly, we don't know much else about these animals. There have only been a handful of scimitar cat fossils found, so not much for researchers to study. We don't even know how many of these cats once roamed North America during the Ice Age. Number 2. World War II plane in the Alps. A melting glacier in Switzerland recently revealed a plane from World War II that crashed in the Alps. It was 2018 when a heat wave caused massive amounts of ice on the Gauli Glacier to simply vanish. This revealed the ruined bones of a C-52 Sky Trooper Dakota. On November 19, 1946, the plane had been traveling from Austria to Italy when it smacked right into the glacier. The collision was at 10,990 feet, making the plane wreckage impossible to recover. However, there was a rescue operation. 4 crew members and 8 passengers walked away with nothing but minor injuries, being rescued 6 days later. There wasn't a single fatality. They survived by drinking snow water and eating the few chocolate bars they had to share between them. In 2012, a trio of hikers came across the plane's propeller on the glacier, but they couldn't see the rest of the plane. It wasn't until 6 years later when enough of the ice melted to reveal the entire thing. It's in surprisingly good shape thanks to being stuck in a block of ice for over 70 years. Number 1. Arctic Ice Camp. There's been a significant amount of submarine activity in the Arctic ice during the past few years. We've seen a trio of Russian submarines break through the ice, and even the US has been busy creating ice camps and practicing their own submarine maneuvers in the Arctic. In fact, scientists with the University of Alaska Fairbanks helped to provide ice and weather expertise to the US Navy in 2020 during Arctic Ocean training. The Navy constructed Camp Sea Dragon, a temporary hub on an ice sheet in the middle of the Arctic Ocean. The camp had more than 45 personnel, serving as a command center for submarine operations. They also held under-ice navigational exercises for their submarines. This has helped the Navy learn how to travel undetected beneath the ice in case of some Arctic conflict. Thanks for watching! Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already and come back soon for more awesome videos. See you later! Bye!